Welcome to the section 2 of this video. Uh, Apologies for that. Welcome to the section 2 of this video where we shall discuss about how to utilize brushstroke tool. Enable discussions here. We shall talk about fill and drawing. As you can see here, allow me to go into a new file. Okay, so what we're going to do here is to X delete the cube and then include the cube. As tradition to Blender tutorials. Here we shall use, if you press N, the hotkey N, you will see a property tab come up as item tool view. What we're going to look at is the brushstroke tools here. We're going to see a bunch of scary things like the advanced option. We don't talk about the advanced option because this is a new update which includes these three things. This, the render setup upgrade resources, which allows us to render better quality in layers, which is going to be useful in the future. Well, now we're going to talk about fill or draw. Yeah. All right. Let's sort of dive right into it. First of all, we shall go into the fill option. You can see a bunch of chocolatey, textury planes start appear around the surfaces of our cube. And we don't see the brushstroke tools yet. That's because we are still in a solid shaded mode. You can access to material tab either through Z, press the hotkey Z, material preview, and you'll see the brushstroke tool in a second because it's rendering. And there we go. Or you can go to render view. Of course, it's gonna be more detailed because it is a game engine. It's for the rendering process, but I suggest you do it in material preview because rendering takes a lot of computing power, even for EV, EV Max, I think. Even for EV Max. So it's to save resources and prevent less lag, it's best for you to go to material preview. So how do we use this brushstroke tool is through all of these properties right here. You can either use fill or draw, as you can see here. Drawing allows you for more precise control. I believe they do have pressure for this, so it's gonna be very fun for Photoshop and drawing use, 2D enthusiasts. Now we go to all right, we shall go to the shape properties. In these two, there are three main properties: shape, as you can see here, materials, and settings. Before we go through all three of these settings, we shall look at how to enable the object. It's going to be important in the future where you have to press the object for it to work. Like if I go to somewhere like add a cube and then shifty UI cover the cube, it's gonna be hard to select the cube itself, right? But don't worry, Blender Studio have found this issue and they allow us to press the object itself behind the giant layers of painterly effects by pressing this button right here, select surface. Now, if we want to select our object, which is difficult, if our scene is cluttered as this, you can select the brushstroke tool stuff, the brush painterly effect, and then press select surface, and it will select the very mesh underneath the painted layer. It is important because if we are going through the vertex groups, which will be covered in a few sections later, it will be easy. It will make our lives easier, I can say. So here we shall talk about the uh, the shape category. For the shape category, there are a lot of like for fill, I think it's fill, right? Yeah, for the fill category in shape, there's a lot of like sliders for you to play with, like normal offset, which offsets the brush strokes, shrink wrap makes it so that as you can see, the brush strokes strictly covers around the UV islands of the mesh itself. Of course, you have the ability to either make it really tight or really loose, like so. Trim to mesh is also a good option if you don't want to break your brush strokes through shrink wrap. Trim to mesh kind of limits the extreme amount of extrusion. As you can see here, hold on, let me change it to brush color. Let me change it to blue for better viewing. Now, as you can see, I really hate the road sometimes. As you can see here, trim to mesh allows you to limit the amount of extrusions that go through the mesh. As the surface, now let's move on to the brushes. The brushes, we have brush width, which, well, as the name suggests, adjusts the width, length, adjust the length, texture extension. This is fun because as you can see that your textures, your brush strokes, you can control the scale of both width and length through the brush scale too. But if you want more precise adjustments, you can use the length or width. Now, what does texture extension do is allows the brush stroke itself to bleed out. As you can see, it bleeds out of its original texture shape. So if you want to play with layers, or you want to play some certain aspects that have some form of corrosion or something, you can play with texture extension. Distribution. This is where we allow the brush stroke cover all of the surface through density. The higher the density, the more the brush stroke effect will show up. But don't go overboard because your PC can't handle above 50. I mean, they can, but it's gonna take a lot of resource to render, and sometimes Blender kind of lags out. So I suggest it's best to go with 16 or hmm, or if you want to go, if you truly want to save layers, you can use all the way to 30. 30 is the best optimum. It depends on your mesh. If it's really complex, it's best for you to go with 6 or 5 because there are certain aspects, other aspects of the mesh needs attention to detail. Therefore, it's best you limit the amount of density applied to the mesh itself. Now, let's move on to what's the next? Alright. Let's move on to the fill aspect of this painterly too. So brushstrokes, we all know brushstroke surface is similar to fill, like you can offset it, like normal offset it, shrink wrap. But this one don't have trim to mesh because our drawings are automatically trimmed to the very mesh itself. Now, if you have some form of like edges and then you paint all the way through it, of course, there's going to be extrusion because they are going to be drawing along the surfaces of the mesh itself. So if you want to paint this, make sure you're on a flat surface or or flat enough surface and don't draw over the edges. Now let me go to edit mode. Edit mode by pressing tab. Now, of course, you have to select this and then press tab and draw. Yeah. Okay, let me go to edit mode. All right. If you draw over the edge, then the brushstroke with the drawing brushstroke tool, it go into the mesh, fit inside the mesh. So be aware of that. Watch out for that. All right. Let me get rid of all this brushstroke here. Now, what I want you to do is play around with draw tool. If you are interested in traditional kind of texturing style, it's going to be fun for you. Okay, one more thing I want to mention is that if you want to edit your brushstrokes, press this edit brushstroke button. You can paint it, manipulate all the brushstrokes that way. Only through this way can you manipulate it. If you don't press, all right, for example, if you press the brushstroke itself, the mesh itself, and you can't manipulate it without pressing edit brushstrokes. It is paramount if you want to manipulate the brushstrokes by pressing this. Okay, good. Furthermore, one more thing I forgot to mention about the fill tool, right? You can manipulate the way how the brushstrokes react, how the brushstrokes look on the generated mesh by pressing edit flow. If you wanted a circle, you can draw a circle, it will follow it. Some, of course, you have to add more strokes, I guess, because it will be best in if I increase it and okay, so you can manipulate it however you like with this edit flow. Why it looks like this, I will explain it further into the vertex section of this video, but for now, this is what you can do with edit flow for both drawing and fill. Now let's go back to the draw tool for a second. Let me disable the fill tool by pressing the eye icon. So the draw tool, furthermore, the stroke, you can play around with the stroke resolutions, like you make it really, really straight. If your brush strokey thing is kind of janky, you can just straighten it with stroke resolution. Or if you want it really curvy, following the edges, just keep it at 0. Dappled, yeah, this is fun. If you want to make like string kind of details, you can play with this. Smoothing steps allow it to, as you can see, the noise, it moves it around. Like if you want to make Christmas lights or if you want to make lanterns, this will be fun. And then seed. Ignore the seed. Don't play with the seed unless you know what you're doing. Seed is where you manipulate individual brush strokes into different patterns. They use seeds like Minecraft to generate how it looks. So here in duplicate section, this is going to be one of the paper tiger, if you will. If you play too much with duplicates, it will crash your Blender software. So use it really wisely. So for example, if you wanted 2, 3, 4, 4 is okay. But if you accidentally slide it all the way to 100, I hard to uh find it hard to for you to recollect your file and then put it back to what it once was. Because so yeah, play with it really carefully because it is really easy for you to slide it over 100 and 200 above. Yeah, spread is where as you can see, you can play around spread, parallel strokes, tapper, right? You can play around with it. Tapper, I don't quite know what tapper is, not too much. Other than say it just pinpoint the top of the vertex and the bottom of the vertex and then I can't explain it, but you can see tap a shift. You can play around with like simulation stuff, like if like the vine is going to blow like a balloon. Yeah, we can play with tap a shift, segment length. This one I don't know what to do, what it does at the moment. It just doesn't work sometimes. Segment variation, split probability. Yeah, play around with the settings however you like. This is your renaissance, I can say. This is quite a new tool for everyone, including the Blender community, as it came out around 2 to 3 months ago, like 3 to 4 months ago. Sorry, I think that covers all of the tape in this section. Right, let's move on to the next section. On the next video, I will talk about materials of the material tab. Yeah, is it that much? Yeah, I'll talk about materials on the next video. For now, this is the end for the shape element of Brushstroke 2.